Oh, okay. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started. I think I've gone through the warrant, and were there any questions that you had in there?
I'm good.
Okay, Patrick should be here shortly. Glenn?
Yeah, so really the only real financial issue that I've been dealing with this week was we met with MEMA and FEMA representatives regarding the storm from December 18th and the possibility for a disaster declaration. They're very confident that the state's going to qualify to, I think it's 2.2 million in total damages that the state has to reach in order for the designation. Several counties in the state are going to meet their threshold. It's unclear at this point if Hancock County will. We thought we would easily with the damage to the school, but we learned at that meeting that damage that's covered by insurance, which the school roof is, doesn't qualify. So, so that puts us kind of behind the 8 ball at meeting the $200,000 and some threshold for the county. Depending on what other communities were able to log and accurately provide information to MEMA and FEMA. Right now, we're at the city outside of the school. We're looking at approximately, and these are very rough figures because we're still getting work done, but we're approximately 50,000 in damage for road repairs. The biggest portion of our cost for repairs is to traffic signals. We had two separate traffic signals that were received an extensive damage, one of which fell from the wind. So we're looking at about $20,000 worth of damage to traffic signals right now that we've accounted for. So we will continue to provide, we're working on gathering all of the estimates and all of the figures to provide to MEMA and FEMA, and we will file all that paperwork and keep our fingers crossed that we're able to meet the threshold and we're able to recover some of our expenses. Outside of that, it was, business as usual, dealing with personnel issues and other management responsibilities here for the city. So,
Looks like there's a water main break.
water main break, yeah.
I
There'll
saw them
be
out there.
a lot of the day up there. Cold day.
Do you know, Glenn, if any of the pressure on the underground infrastructure would qualify? Can you talk about that?
Well, we talked
For the
about
drainage is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Any?
The only thing that we talked to FEMA and MEMA about was some of the extreme increase in flow through our wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
And so we are going to provide them the data to see if perhaps there's any consideration for, for essentially the wear and tear of that equipment. Because equipment is so for all of the other things like debris cleanup and road closures and I guess those are the major ones. We can be reimbursed if we qualify. We'll be reimbursed for our time, our employees' time, as well as equipment use. So there and the other one was generators. So we had to provide them information on all our generators, how long they ran, what their fuel source is, and so there may be potentially some relief, if you will, for that excessive use of that facility based on the influx and flow. So, but we won't know any of that for quite some time while we're waiting for FEMA and MEMA to respond and gather all of the information. They've requested that we provide them everything that we have by next Wednesday, so staff is working on it, and we should easily be able to accommodate that. And
The feds, the governor requested emergency relief from, did they grant that yet? Or
they haven't yet. We have to meet the threshold, the two plus million for the whole state, but that's gonna be easily met with
All,
communities
yeah,
like.
bridges and, yeah.
Yeah, so I just question whether Hancock County will be able to, because I don't know that outside of Ellsworth, well, one, I don't know what the extent of damage was outside of Ellsworth, but two, I also, many of those smaller communities don't have the capacity to be able to provide the information in such a short window of opportunity. I mean, they literally, 2 days after the storm, we had to submit the preliminary documentation, which I have here, which is, a couple-page application, which I was able to complete with the, not from my own knowledge, but by tapping into my staff, the city staff, the highway department, and others, whereas other communities don't have that capacity. So for them to be able to provide this information and accurately track it is more difficult. So I just don't know if they'll have enough to be able to get us to that, over that hump, so. But the positive news, the school roof is being repaired. It is covered under insurance, and they're there this week working on it. And Amy Bowles did attend that meeting with me, along with Adam Wilson, and she reported that the roof repair is being done this week, and there was minimal interruption. There was one classroom that they had to relocate the students from, but the remainder of the school, outside of one day where the 7th grade didn't attend school when the other kids did, they're back in their classrooms with the exception of one. So
It's pretty good.
I'll turn it over to finance because she's got far more information to provide you this week than I do.
So, okay, so this week, as you can see, I have my trusty auditor here all week with me, and we're finishing up a lot of different things. 23 audit, chart of accounts, payroll chart of accounts, migrations back and forth between Munis and then into Cassell. I also launched the preliminary CIP online, so I've got a few more. I have to separate out funding because funding has to be done as a line item, so I'll have like 3 lines for one project if it has 3 types of financing. And then just trying to get a lot of the data ready so we can start doing reconciliations in '24, which will help us for budget '25. Oh, and multiple deputy finance director interviews.
Sweet.
So it's, we've been looking at accountants because that's what we need. Had some really good candidates. They're just expensive because, accountants aren't cheap these days. So hopefully I'm gonna figure something out. I have one that I really, really like, but she has a master's in accounting and she's just a rock star. So I'm working on that project.
I'd just like to throw something out there. Sure, CPAs are expensive, but so is the situation that we have.
I agree. I agree. I'm working on kind of a hybrid solution that we'll see how it comes out, and then I'll present it and see what you guys think. So, if you have any particular question, Ron, you've been doing a lot, so.
March 31st, we're gonna have that audit submitted on time this year, and in February, I'm helping Ann with the budget. For the most part, it's you won't see the changes, but all the layers underneath it with the streamlining going from Tyler to Cassell, there's been a lot of work done, you know, on that to kind of like bridge all the details are underneath what you actually look at. So, I mean, we've gone from 9,000 accounts down to about 700, you know, so all those things get plugged in somewhere. And last night, for the first time, we saw from Cassell, the chart of accounts, you know, that you're gonna get trained on next week. And then Paychex is, you know, has the bridge created, they're getting trained on that next week. So we are in a good spot finally now to get this thing going. And I would say at some point in time in the month of January, you're gonna be working live, you know, with Cassell and, you know, and that's a good day. You know, but what we're trying to do is get the numbers right, you know, and make sure that we don't import garbage, you know, into Cassell. It's a lot of work with that bridge, you know, trying to build that, but we've got the tool now that I can work with over the next week or two with Cassell to, you know, to do that. And then 23, bank recs is still an issue. We're still working through those. School audit starts in 2 weeks, you know, so we're gonna be up there, but we fully expect on March 31st to have those audits submitted and be having this conversation audit-wise and using and going live with Cassell, you know, with real live data. And then I think the other thing that we're gonna have to talk about with you all is, you know, kind of like 2024, what's that transition look like, as Ann was just talking about with new people on board, you know, and how that's gonna work, and, you know, and I can literally see almost the 24 audit going on as we sit here and speak to make sure that July of 23 through January of 24, all that information is there and right, you know, because that's what you were trying to get into Cassell right now.
Right.
And load that in there, so we finally have all the tools now to do it. You know, we provided them all, took a little time to get there, but we're there with that chart of accounts, so.
Good.
So literally, I think by March 31st, we're gonna give you a good story on that too. And there's no such thing as an easy training and conversion, no such thing.
No,
But I'll
and-
tell you, I really thought that it was gonna be like March, April, you know, we were shooting for the first of the year. What's next week? I think that's a pretty good job, you know, that we've all done to get there next week to start doing training on all of it, so. That's my update.
I'm trying to get budget so that it's, because we have new people, I mean, you've been here a long time, so you know what you're looking at. But we have new people, and I want everybody to kind of be able to look at 23, 22, and have it make sense relative to 24, in spite of the massive changes to the chart of accounts and the way that we keep the chart of accounts. So that's been my goal. So I've been just hammering Ron until he finally came up here for the week.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so I thought I'd just pop in.
She couldn't bring you in the summertime, you know, she has to bring you in the middle of the winter, right?
No, I had you in the
I'm here,
summer,
for
too.
goodness sakes, and we still got 3 months to submit an audit, which we haven't been in this position before, so this is a good day. This is a good day for me to be here, to sit here and have this conversation.
Yes, sir,
So
it
with all
is.
the progress, we're 4 lanes wide in Ellsworth, so it's nice to be sitting here talking about being proactive, so, with a lot of work to do, but proactive, so.
It's a lot of like, hurry up, wait, and
And the other
It's
thing I
so
would say
stressful.
too, and I really didn't get to say this the last time, there's a lot of Ellsworths out there right now. This is an ugly world of government, I'll tell you. There's a lot of people, a lot of municipalities, a lot of schools, a lot of counties. Our world of government in this state is in some tough shape, you know, and I think when a lot of the institutional knowledge left and retired, it really put a strain on government, you know, and there's a lot of Ellsworths out there right now, just trying to get that ship pointed again, right back in the, you know, in the right direction. And you are, but you're not the only one in this situation. I went to the MMA conference back at the end of October. We had all the regulators, their education, our state auditor there saying, hey, it's ugly, you know, out there right now, because, you know, it was like, I won't say it was the perfect storm, you know, but between, you know, about 14, 15 years ago, losing the public administration program in the university system, which they're trying to bring back right now, all the people hitting that retirement age and just moving on, it created a perfect storm in the world of government that we're experiencing right now. So you're not the only one out there.
but we're gonna fix it. So.
We're fixing it.
We're
And
not
like
gonna
said,
I
be
think
that-
the colleges are even like when I went to school, they didn't really do.
We just
Good Morning
we
County.
just partnered with the university system to start an internship program for governmental public administration and auditing and accounting.
That's
So,
awesome,
yeah,
because I
it's-
don't think,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we're proud of it. We're proud of it, and hopefully it's gonna get launched, with their next curriculum in July. So, we're still working out the details, trying to come up with a curriculum and all that. They're starting with their Aroostook County campus, for the university system, to work their way down here, Southern Maine, talking with them, so yeah, it's gonna happen. And our state auditor is really big on trying to bring back the public administration program to the university system, so we're actually gonna testify this spring. And they hope to put some money in there to start easing in for some of this transition, so.
Good.
So we're happy, because I'll tell you, nobody's out there going to school for this stuff anymore. And there's no classes to go, there's no classes being taught in the classroom to do it. It's not like when we were growing up, it's just not, it's just changed forever, so I'm happy and proud of that.
There are no CPAs.
Thank you.
Do you
There's
know,
only people with accounting degrees, and they're very few and far between. I mean, it's astounding to me.
There's only probably less than 2 of us auditing firms left in the state, just because everybody saw it coming, so.
And you can't find people
I'll tell
to,
you, so in 14 months, you just said it, I saw this coming, though. I saw this coming 4 years ago, I just didn't see it coming this fast. We've gone from a firm of 31 to 62 in 14 months, 14 months. So we went out and we stacked our deck, but it takes time to train, and sadly, there's just more, supply out there for this work than there is for demand. So we're having to partner with the Department of Education, the State Department of Audit, where our people are working with their people, and we're trying to fix this, but there's no short-term fix, so.
is Maine Municipal Association working with these groups?
Peter Osborne is one of the gentlemen, we actually did a joint workshop with him, we bought him, we bought a couple of the high-profile bankers, State Department of Education, State Department of Audit, we got together before Christmas, and they're one of the advocates for bringing back the program. Peter's been a great supporter of it, so we've got a lot of work to do, but I think we've got finally everybody together to point this in the right direction now. So there's a lot of conversation going on, so, yeah.
and you've been to a bunch of trainings and seminars and webinars.
Yeah,
Are
for-
you seeing it across
for
the entire
municipal
country?
accounting. Yeah.
Like with these types of issues too, it's not just Maine and,
In the state
No,
of
it's
Maine,
everywhere.
so Paula Gravel, she's the finance, assistant finance chair for the State Department of Education. So for 2022, there's still over 50 school systems that haven't submitted their audit report yet and aren't even closed. And some of those go back multiple 3 to 4 years, it's that bad. So I think our state auditor said that there were some municipalities that were more than 9 years in arrears of submitting annual independent audits. So
Good
that's why I say
grief.
I'm proud of what we're doing here, so
It's
we
a
gotta
lot.
gain on that list.
it's
You know,
anxiety to hear
Right,
that.
I'll tell you, think of what it does to them. So and it was really sobering to hear them speak, and just kind of tell about the world, what's going on around us. And it's just not just Maine, I'm licensed in Mass, New Hampshire, and Vermont. They're all experiencing this, everybody, there's no prisoners in this, so.
One of the angles that I've had to use or one of the good things that's happening is that some of the people that I'm interviewing who are very qualified, their motivation isn't just jobs and money. A lot of people are trying to get out of cities. And Maine is like a place that people want to come. And so I had just said, it's, because I did that, I did it 2 years ago, so I'm a little ahead of the curve. I said, but it's a great lifestyle, and you don't need $180,000 to live here comfortably. Like, it's a lifestyle swap. And so a lot of people are looking at that and they see that value. So it's not just about money, which is a good thing, because if it was just about money, we'd be doomed. So I've been having those conversations with some of the candidates that I'm talking to, and I'm really hoping that is successful.
Is there, I have a question for you, Ron. In your maybe you don't have the answer to this, but in your audits of other cities, particularly in the size of Ellsworth, is there some position in each department that organizes things correctly for finance departments to make that flow smooth?
So, let me get to the answer, but there's a little story before.
Yeah, and to clarify, I just wanted to say that, is there a process at each department that could flow that into the finance department without a disaster?
There is not a one-size-fits-all, so I'll start
Okay.
with that, I'm sure.
Yep.
Accounting, the finance piece of it, that's the struggle right now. And what's even compounded, the accounting struggles out there is this influx of all this federal money that we've got right now. And the fact that they've made it available to you, I mean, billions of dollars. There's $2.5 billion in this state right now for the Build Back America infrastructure. That's starting to get passed out right now. So where am I going with that? That's added a different layer with procurement, with competitiveness, in applying for some of these grants and making you set up to handle this money coming in. Because it's not gonna go away for 4 or 5 years. So what's that? It's put a huge strain on finance departments to the point where a lot of them have had to outsource grant writers, procurement people. They're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for engineers to come in and manage the federal money as opposed to, their highway department chair or the director or assistant director, their city manager, assistant city manager, finance director, manager. There's just so much, strain that's been put on the finance departments that were already strained with accounting. So there's just not a one-size-fits-all, anymore. What works with Ellsworth, you gotta get back to it, and I think that that's what we're trying to do here right now. But I've talked with Ann, and I really haven't had a chance to talk with Glenn, about it. We see some internal changes here, that you're gonna have to make just to kind of adapt, to what the profession looks like right now and what the world of government looks like right now. And our state auditor just spoke to this too, and that's why they're trying to identify some of this, some of these, it's all like a hybrid situation now too. You still got government, not even coming back to government, you got people, in finance that are working maybe a day in finance and the rest of the time they're working from their homes or somewhere else outside that office. And that's really created a lot of problems too. And I'm not saying that's gone on here in Ellsworth, but it's definitely gone on in a lot of other governments too. So it's trying to get back to whatever that baseline looked like. And nobody's gonna get back there. It's just not, there's been too many changes, out there, and the world has changed, the professions, changed forever, but I do see some models coming down the road, once we can, for lack of a better way, get into this last round of federal government money. I think that there's going to be some funding out there to, for lack of a better word, adapt. There is for the schools, okay? Vermont was one of the first pilot states to say, we're gonna give you some money for software conversions, accounting needs, and things like that, through these earmarks that they had with the federal funds. Maine's right behind it, and that's what I see happening. There's that great question that you just asked, is how can we, not a one-size-fits-all, how can we put the money into the local governments and put it in their hands so they can adapt? And that's, Vermont literally has some great cutting-edge programs for education. I see that being a trend, right now, in the state too. Already had the conversations, so.
If I could too, just to add to that, the new software I think is gonna help to facilitate that a lot, Mr. O'Halloran. A lot of our current staff, most of our current staff has had no formal Munis training, and including, our finance department. Most of our finance folks have just kind of learned Munis on the fly as they've worked in it. And since most of these folks came on, Munis has been extremely problematic. We're way behind on any sort of updates with Munis, which has contributed to the problems with the program. And so switching to Cassell, all the current staff they're all going to receive adequate training from the company to be able to utilize the software. The software itself is far more user-friendly as far as being intuitive and for people to be able to go in and access the information that they need. So I think it's very much a two-way street with department heads, information that they provide to finance and vice versa, the finance department being able to provide information, accurate information to department heads. That's gonna be facilitated through this new software that currently there just isn't. We just don't have that communication, we don't have that easy flow of information from one to the other because the current software is really a huge obstacle for our employees to be able to navigate and to be able to facilitate that. So I think that's gonna be a huge change, and it's gonna be welcome and a significant improvement over the ability for those two departments, or all of those departments, to be able to communicate with finance and vice versa, finance to be able to communicate with them. So I think that's gonna really
It's a breath of fresh air.
make that change.
And I think that just to piggyback what Glenn just said, you know, the other thing too, and to kind of like keep running with your question that you asked here is, as far as how you make it Ellsworth, I mean, you've got at least 5 different software platforms out there, including Munis being just one of them, that don't talk to each other. And that's been a huge problem, you know, out there, because all that institutional knowledge, you know, that allowed it to talk isn't here anymore. So it's like, you know, now, as you migrate to a new software, get your people up to running, you don't build a software platform, you know, for a person, you build it for your organization. And I think now, you know, with the past 4 or 5 people that have come after you, they've kind of built it for how they were thinking, you know, what they were thinking, you know, and well, this is the 4th time I've heard this, so I probably should add 400 more accounts to our general ledger, you know, so that we ought to do that. So, and that's why this, it just got out of control. So now it's almost like you've hit the reset button, and it's like, okay, let's get back to Ellsworth now, and I think it's a great start. And time to start looking internally for the first time, you know, at consolidating some of the software so you can work smarter. Because that's a lot of your problems right now, because all that stuff is so compartmentalized right now, it doesn't talk to each other. And that's why you spend a lot of money internally here to go reconcile your cash right now, because there's like 10 tentacles to it now. It's crazy, you know, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think this is a good start when you hit that reset button, so.
On a positive note, I mean, from when I got here a year ago, it's like another world. I mean, it's, because when I got here, it was pandemonium. There was no records anywhere that I could ever find, but over time, we've just kind of done our archaeological digs through the people. I mean, it literally was that, you know, I mean, it was a year and a half without any sort of reconciliation and nobody keeping up any records. So I feel like we've really got a much better hold on that now. And I feel, you know, poor Glenn, because I've just been, this whole thing with Fed money right now, I've just been on him to stay on top of that so that the city can share in that, because Fed funds come from taxpayer money. And to keep track of it, because the reporting side of that is critical if you want to keep getting Fed funds. So, I mean, I feel like we're in a good position there because we're going to need it. When you see our capital assets for the city, we're going to need money. And we don't want to stick it to the taxpayers because it's just too expensive for the 9
You guys got a lot going on, that's for sure.
Yeah, there is a lot going on.
That we do. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna get back at it if you don't need me, so.
Thanks, Ron,
Thank
appreciate it.
Thank you.
You all set?
That's pretty much all. I've been with him all week, so, and then I was on holiday last week, so.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've been here a year now, and I feel much better than I did when I first got here.
Good.
When I first got here, I was like looking at the mountain and looking for a Sherpa and some way to get through it. And then, you know, we've had a lot of staff issues, but I feel like now I have a good AP staff, and they have expanded skills, because we've been teaching them, you know, when May was here, we were teaching them more things so that they can participate more in the work of finance. And I just have this last critical piece that I need for someone that's just a really good accountant. I don't necessarily need a CPA, I really need a functional operational accountant, someone with that operational skill set, and I haven't had that yet, so that's what I'm looking for. Someone that's run a business. It didn't have to be a government, but that they understand workflow, that they understand that budget is a tool for management to plan workflow, and so that they're looking at things that way, because that's what you need.
Just like to throw out a comment in relation to all of this. Glenn, we were at a meeting one time, and you said when you become city manager, one of your focuses was the finance department. And it sounds like that you have accomplished a great amount in focusing and getting the finance department headed in the right direction. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. I certainly can't take the credit. I mean, they're
But
the
it was
ones
a
doing the
focus of
work.
yours.
But when I came, when I took over as city manager, it was obvious that that department lacked in staffing. There was only 2 of them at the time, and it was very clear to me that in order for the city to be successful in the future, going forward, we needed a strong financial department that was going to be able to, provide the information to the council, to the management team, and we worked hard, and Ann has worked hard, and her staff has worked hard, and so I think, I appreciate that very much, and I think, and Ron has been fantastic, providing us resources. So it has been a battle and a struggle, but I think we are finally headed in the right direction, and with this new software and Ron's help and Ann's continued hard work, I think we'll get there.
And within a 3-year period, it seems like you've got that headed in the right direction, which is fabulous.
Failure is not an option. I mean, I have the
There we go.
bit between my teeth now. I make this drive every day, so I'm not making it for nothing. I'm like, I'm not gonna lose. It's exciting. I mean, my background is corporate finance and turnaround and startup and mergers and acquisitions, so it's not completely removed from that. You know, I've walked into companies that were worth millions and millions of dollars, and they had like a paper bag with their financials in them. So I feel not scared, but it's just trying to make the right decision for the group, because this isn't just one department. This is many, many departments in the city, and they all need to work together. And finance is a critical component of every one of them. So my goal is to help these departments, because they walk in my office all the time and they don't know where they are with their budgets and that. So it's really important to me that they have that piece, that they have that, piece of paper that they're able to log in and know how much they've spent on this, and know how much they've spent, know how much revenue that they've anticipated and where they are with receiving that revenue. I just think that's critical to them being able to make good decisions. If the management team makes good decisions, the city's gonna run better, period. And if they're positive and they feel like they can make a good decision, that's another problem that people have had with this sort of 3 years of uncertainty, is they just didn't have the confidence, and they were, I don't know what to do. So I don't want that. I don't want that for anybody in the city.
Did you touch on the Moore Center? Oh, billing.
Okay, so we have, this was something that I found out
Sorry,
about.
I'm very positive and excited, thank you.
Um,
Sorry, but the.
So we have an agreement with the Moore Center that we
Yeah.
provide them some money every year and
Yeah.
services, and in exchange, they pay certain of their bills. That billing has not been happening since that agreement has been in place. So I have a stack, I just have to get to it, but
Okay.
I have a lot. And I've had it's just been 2 of us for several months now, but I think, see, this is the kind of thing that I would want my staff to do.
Yeah.
Because my girl that left in July or August, she was going to do that because she knew how to do that, but then she left. So then it got back to my desk. So it's really important because they've not paid, and it's not entirely their fault, but they've just never been invoiced correctly.
10 years?
I don't know how many years.
No, I can't, we billed them
Yeah.
no, it got billed. Because they were on our, fuel program, and to get the same pricing, are they still?
No,
They're not.
they went
Oh,
with the
okay.
Y.
Okay, they went with a Y, okay.
So,
But there were some, like,
Phone, I mean, the bills that they pay, phone, utilities, but we,
Nobody's billed them for phone at all, ever, that we could tell. So,
if I could just ask, you
Sure.
mentioned that they have been billed. Have they paid?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
That's a project that I have to get into, but it's just not as critical as.
I understand, I
Yeah.
understand, but just
But-
because we invoice something doesn't mean it's
No.
paid.
Yeah, one of the things about the new software that's gonna make life so much better here is the ability to have that dashboard where we're looking at all these things easily. Because part of the problem with Munis is it's been garbage in, garbage out. You know, once the accounting staff left the city, I mean, it was just like everybody was putting in accounting entries, and they're not right, and they're in the wrong types of accounts. I mean, it's unusable data. So getting that straightened out and getting good data into Munis is gonna be like a new world in terms of management, in terms of financial management, for sure.
the contract with the Moore Center actually expires in August as well. So that's one of the tasks that we'll be embarking on in the coming months is to put together a team from city, council representation, to begin that negotiation process or those communications with the Y to see what the future of that agreement looks like. It was a 10-year agreement that expires in August, and obviously for the longevity of the building and the fiscal nature of the city, there's gonna have to be some changes made to that agreement that was signed 10 years ago, because we just can't sustain complete, responsibility for that building without any revenue source whatsoever generated from it. So, that's gonna be a process that's gonna have to be undertaken, and council representation, and ultimately we'll come back to the council for full approval of whatever is hammered out. But definitely some significant changes, and this whole situation with billing and invoicing and will all be part of that conversation to see if there's a better, more productive, more efficient way for all of that to be handled, rather than us paying some stuff and having to invoice them. And to your point, we get a much better rate because of the volume that we do than the Y. It was only last year that I learned that they weren't under our umbrella for fuel, that they were through the Y. And the last year we've spent with the roof repair and some other things, probably, around $160,000 to $175,000 of additional investment into that facility. So something's got to change, and we're fortunate that that contract expires in August, and we have the opportunity to engage in conversations and make sure that going forward, the city's in a better position with that facility, so.
And once we have some good financials, we can go through it and look at what the spend is on it, and, maybe fashion something like a triple net lease off of it, so that we are getting those expenses covered. But until I have those real numbers and I really see what we're spending, there's been too much throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. I mean, we really need to get down to the details of what we're spending on things, because this isn't the Red Cross. We need to be really, really conscious of the money and how we spend it.
and I think we are, we just don't have the financial records to be able to do, I still think, just not throwing spaghetti at the wall, I think the city and the council doesn't just make uninformed decisions.
I don't think that you're
so-
making uninformed decisions at all. I
Okay.
just think that the quality of some of the information isn't that great. And I think you could get better information, and that's what I'd like to
Absolutely.
give you.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to give you solutions to problems rather than just problems. But so far, all I've had is problems. And I'm just now coming out of the woods and having solutions and seeing some light on these roads. But, I mean, there's a lot that needs to be refined and changed. You know, I know this isn't a private company, and I know that it's not run like that, but there has to be that same amount of restraint in spending that you have, because it's a burden to the people to waste anything at all. And we have so many things that we want to fix in terms of infrastructure that, you know, we should be doing that. And I want to be able to have that money and utilize what we do have as well as we can and as efficiently as we can. And I'll do that by giving you the information and my perspective on it, and you decide.
One further question?
Yeah,
for
no,
me?
no, no,
Okay.
no, that's fine, that's what we're here for.
So you've been the finance director for a year, and you have been the finance director for several years, correct?
Well, I haven't been the finance director in, 7 years, so.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
but you have some history.
Yeah.
My question is this,
6 years.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that everybody in the finance department has had a stack of stuff to deal with this tall. And half dealing with it and getting it processed has been a better option than processing it in a slower fashion correctly. Is that fair to say?
Well, it's not static like that. It's
Okay.
been a lot of things that happened in finance. First of all, Tammy was really the last person to hold that position that had any sort of formal education, understanding of actual accounting. It's not a hobby. It's an education that you learn in school. And if you're very lucky, you can learn it, you know, up through the ranks of working with accountants. It's another way that you can learn it. And the problem is that the people that came after her, nobody knew everything, like she knew everything. People knew parts, but they didn't have that same skill set of discernment that she had. And then even people that came in later who had, you know, college degrees and stuff, it's not the same to, you know, every business is not the same. You know, managing an insurance company is not the same as managing a hospital. I mean, it's just that broad brush, direct understanding of basic workflow, cash flow, and revenue streams.
So.
So
to-
it just slowly degraded, you
Right,
know.
and to add to that, I guess, are we underpaying the people in that department? Because there's been a lot of turnover. Are we not up to par there? The number of people, I mean, is any of that something that could be fixed in the budget year, is my question.
The thing is about, as far as that goes, like, I'm having to deal with this particular question a lot lately. You don't go to work to government to have the big, high-paying job. I had the big, high-paying job at a private company, or a public company, but not a government. And I think there's part of why you do this job is because you want to. You know, you have to have that piece. Either you've always done government, or you just want to do it. And to me, it's like a challenge to this particular job. It's a huge challenge, and I like that. That's a big deal for me. And I want to be able to live up here. I don't want to go back to a city. I could go to New York tomorrow and get a big job and live in New York, and I don't want to do that. Already done that, don't want to do that. So as far as wages go, an accountant in a municipal government this size isn't going to make what an accountant makes in like an audit firm or in a CPA firm where you're doing corporate finance or corporate taxes and things like that. It's not the same, but what you do get in a city, and I guess how they look at it in this city, and like I said, I have worked in one city, is that you get a lot of benefits, and you do, and you get a lot of, you know, it's pretty flexible. It's not as, you know, my last job was all about performance every day, every day, every day. If you're not making your numbers, you're out the door. which was fine for a long time. That's fine with me because I was top producer and I didn't care. But now I'm old and I want to take what I've learned, do something different. Do something different, live a more simple life. And it's finding other people like that that are gonna make it possible for us to have real good talent in this city as far as finance and accounting goes. And that's what I'm selling. So yes, for regular accountants, it's very underpaid. I mean, we are offering $75,000 for a degreed accountant with.
That's actually pretty
Sport.
good with the benefits that the city has, and then
Right.
there's also the MMA, the wage scales that they have, and the thing that's hard with that is not all finance directors are created equal. They
Right.
have different types of duties, some are treasurer, some are tax collector and treasurer, so sometimes it's really challenging. But if you look at the cities that are about the same size, you can usually find
So
some,
we're in
and they have like a
par.
minimum and a max. I don't know that for sure. I'm sure we look at that.
I mean, HR, whenever we have a vacancy, one of the first parts of, recruiting and trying to find new employees is HR will consult with MMA for information about pay scales to make sure that we're offering competitive salary. So we are competitive with our salaries. This particular expertise is proving to be more difficult to identify and locate and find. But I think, as Tammy has stated, I think, competitive, as far as other like communities, we are competitive. Can we compete with the private sector?
Not in
Probably not
finance.
as much, but as Ann stated, people typically get into government type of work because
They're done
it's
with it.
different from the private sector, and they want to give back to their community, they want to serve their community or a community, and, and they want to, they want to get out of, the rat race, if you will, of the private sector and do a job that's fulfilling, that has meaning, and isn't just all about, making money and making a paycheck, so. But I did want to just touch base real quick on your initial question about the pile of work being here, and the unique part about our situation is what finance has had to do. A lot of it is catch up, a lot of it is backlog, but we still have a city that's running every single day, and we have bills that come in every single day. We've got road projects, we've got, things that are happening every single day. So we have a staff that's adequate to manage the day-to-day operations, financial burden of the city. The problem is they're being tasked with managing the day-to-day while chipping away at that backlog. And so that's been the big, that's been a really big hurdle for them to overcome, which is why we've relied heavily on outside Ron and others to be able to provide us assistance with that backlog. And that's what's finally getting cleared up. We're finally getting to a point where, as Ron stated, we can hit the reset button. That backlog is not going to be a continued burden for the finance department. So once we get to that point where we're just managing the day-to-day, and Ann has the opportunity to be able to forecast into the future and actually manage the future instead of just the day-to-day, then the four staff that we have in that finance department, I believe, will be adequately staffed to be able to do that. It's just this backlog that's really made it difficult, and continued turnover. Obviously, we need some consistency and we need some stability there. But I think with the AP folks we have now, Ann has shown resilience and has shown that she has that desire to persevere through. So if we can fill that fourth position with somebody who has that same quality, I think that they'll be in a good shape going forward to manage the workload. And Ann will actually have the opportunity to then do some of that forecasting and some of that future planning that we need
And
from a financial.
refinement of the system. I mean, that's what you do when you're a finance director. look at what you're doing and try to make it better every day.
I just get back to, and I'm not, I'm happy with all these answers, don't get me wrong, but turnover is incredibly expensive. It's hard to define the number. That's where I'm going. But maybe, you know, to your point, maybe it's there. And we just need to be a little more patient, and I don't have a lot of patience.
You
So-
don't? You don't?
But
I don't
maybe it's
either.
there,
No,
you
I
know,
relate to
that's,
that, but-
that's, you know, maybe it's there. I just,
The point is, you can't give up. I mean, like, you just have to keep driving forward, because
yeah.
we have to get this fixed. And I've changed my strategy a little bit. We can't compete with accountants out of school, right out of school. They don't care about benefits or any of that, and they're 22 and 23 years old. They're looking for money. So we don't need that. What we need is someone who's more like me, who has already had their big career and they're done with that, and they're just coasting out of corporate world and headed towards retirement, and they wanted a simple life. And I mean, there's a lot of people like that right now. I mean, if you're a member of LinkedIn, you probably know that, because all you see all day long is people writing that. So we posted that job on LinkedIn for the very reason that I knew it would be a better place to look. And in fact, the quality of candidates that's come out of that posting has been phenomenal. And that was the way that I wrote the job, is that it's about a lifestyle. Because it's a sales job to get somebody like that really has that skill set that you want at a price that we can afford. We can't afford to pay $150,000. And they can easily get that in the market. But what we want is someone that isn't just about money, and this is a really good time to be looking for that.
Okay, great.
Well, I think keep up with the word. It's very positive update, working with an accounting firm, and it sounds like you've got a vision for this person, and a mixture of patience and perseverance, right? And we'll get there, and I think I'm optimistic, so I think that's great.
Just be patient through budget, because there's gonna be a lot of stuff going on at the same time, and it's not gonna look like it did last year, but there's a reason for that, and I think we're doing everything we can to kind of have it make sense so that you can look back and look forward. But we're changing a lot all at once with very limited staff, and so,
It's all new to me, so
yeah, so.
I won't know the difference.
Just before we close, I just wanted to let you all know that we had a staff member's ex-wife and son were involved in a bad automobile accident yesterday in Hancock, and so just ask that your thoughts are with them. And they're
Is that what that accident was after work?
yeah. So they're both being treated in Bangor, and not believed to be life-threatening, but still very serious injuries.
The traffic was backed up all the way. Where was it? Where was the accident?
It was right at the intersection with the Mud Creek Road.
Okay,
It
that's
always
what I
has
think.
issue. Oh,
I'm glad I didn't go around. I was like, patience, God, give me patience.
We had our first late night last night. We were
Oh,
open till
yeah.
6:30,
That's
and
right.
we had, at last count, there were 4 folks who came in after 5 o'clock to do business with the clerk's department, which is typical of what we might see on a Friday afternoon. So today is, of course, the building will be closing at 12:30, so staff seem to be, when I walked around the building last night reminding people at 6:15 that they were going to get out at 12:30 today, they seemed to be.
push the last
Yeah,
15
yeah,
minutes,
they
like, I can get this done.
They seemed excited about that opportunity, so.
Mark or Ray, do you have anything? No?
And my questions were answered.
Okay.
I was mainly interested in where you were on the audit. If you make March 31st,
That's,
that's very good.
yeah, that's the goal. That's what we're shooting for. There's a lot going on right now in finance. It's kind of overwhelming if you think about it. So I try not to think about it too much and just keep going, just keep driving.
Did you say that's not in there?
The meeting on the path plan,
Mhm.
any update on that?
Well, Update. So the meeting was specifically, the Achilles heel with that whole plan is Main Street to Dean Street. I mean, not Dean Street, Beals Ave. So that's it's still mired in options, and there's been talk about moving tracks and whether the trail goes up around, up above Maine Community Foundation or follows the tracks. So there's right-of-way issues and there's easement issues that are all gonna have to be addressed. So the meeting was focused specifically around that portion of the track and trail and where is the most likely and best potential location of it. So from the city's perspective, our focus is on keeping the trail on the High Street side of the tracks as it comes across Main Street and continues on. So there's not multiple rail crossings, and the reality of the Main Street portion, trying to send people up Main Street to continue the trail above Maine Community Foundation really isn't practical. So ultimately, I think what's gonna be the option that the city's at some point gonna have to decide whether they want to fund it or not, with other funding sources as well. But I think you're gonna see a retaining wall is gonna need to be constructed from Beals Avenue all the way to behind Cadillac Mountain Sports to replace all of that dilapidated retaining wall that's currently there, and be able to allow us to keep that track running along the trail, keep the trail running along the tracks without infringing too much on those property owners as far as getting easements to keep that trail running through there. So that's what we're kind of refocusing on, is what that would look like. Part of that conversation yesterday, because DOT was on that call, and part of that conversation was I posed the question to them, those dilapidated retaining walls are all within the DOT right-of-way for the train tracks. So the conversation was, what level of responsibility does the DOT have on replacing those crumbling retaining walls? Because the fact of the matter is those retaining walls have been deteriorating for years, and I have serious questions on the integrity of the tracks up above. In fact, there's a significant sinkhole that came as a result of the last storm, which they're aware of. So, and the DOT folks stated that they acknowledged that there was, that they do in fact have some ownership and some responsibility for those retaining walls. So I think that was a positive step towards getting them to recognize that if we do this, that the DOT is going to have some skin in the game on replacement of those retaining walls. So that was, I think, positive progress on their part to recognize that. So I think that's probably where we'll end up when it's all said and done. But right now, it's still just in that exploratory preliminary stage to figure out where we're going to put that trail from Main Street to Beals Ave.
They still want to do it all in one fell swoop, the extension from Birch.
No, the extension from Birch to Main will be constructed first, and then 60 cent. This current contract we have is for that complete design of that phase, and then 60% engineering design for the final phase, which is Main to Beals Ave. And that portion of it, again, is far more complicated than the other side of Main Street. So, but I think that based on the fact that if you try to go up around Maine Community Foundation, you're dealing with private property owners to get easements for their property, as opposed to if you go along Main Street, you're dealing primarily with commercial property. Commercial property that has very, very little value to those commercial owners, because it's literally a grassy, wooded, lightly wooded, you know, not useful piece of property. So I think our likelihood and our probability of getting easements through those pieces of property is far greater than going to private property owners and say, oh, we want to cut a 10-foot swath through your land, so.
We could make it a PR thing too, we can say how great they are to cooperate with the city.
Yeah, so I think that's gonna be the route we'll end up going with, and then it's gonna be just a matter of those retaining walls, who's gonna fund them in order to get that, because the retaining walls allow us to snug that trail up as close to that rail bed as we can to prevent having to interfere too much with the property owners, so. I'll stop
Thank
the
you.
recording. If
All
everyone's
right,
done.
thank you. Ann.
Let me get out of your way.